There are already parts of the state that have mandatory restrictions.
Governor Spencer Cox has bad news about Utah's drought and wildfire season.
A very windy end to the week here across the state. We were seeing wind gusts about 50 to 60 miles per hour this afternoon. But how long will the wind last and the fire danger? Let's talk more about that coming up in the full forecast.
Despite declining COVID-19 hospitalizations, several Salt Lake City hospitals are busier than ever. Coming up, learn what's fueling the surge in patients.
It's basically like COVID, but not.
There's a new study on vaping today, the concerning long-term effects one doctor is finding in her patients.
And one age group says buying a home isn't at all it's cracked up to be. How many say they're weighed down with homebuyer remorse and why?
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13's Live at 5 starts right now.
Let me just state unequivocally, guys, it's really bad. It's as bad as it's been.
Right now, a dire warning from Governor Spencer Cox about Utah's drought situation and the wildfire danger we're facing this year. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kelly Chapman.
And I'm Bob Evans. The state is already making plans for a potentially catastrophic summer and urging you to be careful. We have team coverage for you this afternoon.
Meteorologist Allison Krogan is tracking the high winds and the current fire risk, but we start with Ben Winslow. He is live on Capitol Hill. Hi, Ben.
The governor is warning the state's drought situation is the worst we've seen in a long time, and it could mean water restrictions, a fireworks ban, and wildfires.
Really bad. It's as bad as it's been. We need everyone in the state to understand right now that we're heading into one of the worst drought and potentially worst fire seasons that we've seen, and we've seen some bad ones.
Utah leaders are bracing for a summer of wildfires exacerbated by the ongoing drought emergency we're in. Utah's Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands says they've documented 227 fires, torching more than 8,000 acres as of mid-May.
We just want people to be careful. Make sure you're checking those trailer chains. Make sure you put your campfires out. And when you're target shooting, be sure you're shooting in a safe area without rocks, dry grass, or exploding targets, or any of those other things that can be a problem.
Here's the current drought situation in Utah. A large part of the state is in either extreme or exceptional drought conditions. That means fire restrictions increase, and so do water restrictions.
It's going to be different in every part of the state. There are already parts of the state that have mandatory restrictions.
The legislature just extended the state of emergency for drought. The governor says they're going to start pumping more into water conservation, and as Utah grows, searching for new water resources.
I could envision a time soon where new developments, we would be eliminating park strips and looking at xeriscaping.
With the pending wildfire season, the state is also not ruling out fireworks restrictions.
I would say it's very possible.
Are we talking like all-out ban, or are we talking?
I don't think that's off the table. We're going to talk about it. People love their fireworks. We'll see what the conditions are like come July 4th.
To do that, the state will need local government and buy-in from the legislature.
We'll look at those as they get closer. We would work closely with the legislature before we implement any of those. But again, it really depends on what the rain situation looks like leading up to fireworks season.
And local governments can issue their own fireworks restrictions as well. Salt Lake County's emergency managers tell us they're already working on that and plan to have maps out soon. Live on the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
While the governor is warning of fire danger, right now Rocky Mountain Power is keeping a close eye on the southwest corner of the state. Crews are preparing to respond if high winds and fire cause power outages. The utility provider has taken precautions, which they hope will pay off during this very dry season.
As we in recent years have increased the investment and hardening of our system against outages, we've also paid particular attention to areas that are in fire danger because of the extended drought that we're in.
Rocky Mountain Power may need to cut electricity in some areas as a safety precaution, but if it comes to that, they have ways to contact customers ahead of time.
And the high winds we're seeing in parts of the state right now this evening could impact the fire danger, Allison.
Yes, absolutely. Our wind in St. George right now is sustained at 52 miles per hour. It is extremely strong for about 2/3 of the state right now. Wasatch Front not as bad, but we still have the wind gusts about 20 miles per hour. But once you start getting over 30 miles per hour, and especially once you get close to 50 to 60 miles per hour, that is enough to cause quite a few problems. And also, we're seeing areas of blowing dust across southern Utah. Wind advisory in place for the areas in beige until 9 o'clock. A high wind warning in place until 9 p.m. for southwestern Utah. For today, red flag warnings across southern Utah. Come tomorrow, we bring those red flag warnings even further north to include all of central Utah. Now, we have dry conditions across the south, across the north, unsettled weather. And what we're going to continue seeing through the night is increased chances for thunderstorms near the Nevada border and along the Wasatch back areas of light rain. Now, temperatures currently about 70 to 75. It is going to be a little bit cooler tomorrow. By 8 a.m., 53 degrees, and by noon tomorrow, 63 with increased chances for thunderstorms starting at lunchtime and into the afternoon. Coming up later in the hour, let's talk more about what we can expect over the next couple of days as an area of low pressure arrives right next to Utah, and it's going to impact us for several days.
In world news, after 11 days, the violent clashes between Israel and Hamas are now coming to an end.
Both parties have agreed to a ceasefire along the Gaza Strip, ending the worst fighting in that area of the Middle East since 2014. Egypt was reportedly the mediator in brokering this deal.
Meantime, the White House is also coming under pressure from progressives on Capitol Hill. Today, Senator Bernie Sanders introduced a resolution blocking the recent sale of $735 million in weapons to Israel. Democrats in the House filed a similar resolution. Republicans now calling on President Biden to let the sale go through.
The question is Israel versus Hamas. Bernie Sanders apparently wants to side with Hamas. Most of the Democratic, or the energy in the Democratic Party, appears to be that as well.
Stopping the arms sale to Israel looks like a long shot. Congress has never successfully blocked an arms sale with a joint resolution.
In national news now, the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act is now law. President Biden signed the bill today after the House passed it on a large majority vote. The Senate voted 94-1 last month. Now, the driving force behind the legislation is the uptick in violence against Asian Americans all across the country during the pandemic.
I say thank you, thank you, thank you. We got a lot more to do, but we simply haven't seen this kind of bipartisanship for much too long in Washington. You're showing that our democracy can work and deliver for the American people.
As COVID-19 cases began to rise in the United States, so did attacks against people of Asian descent. Thousands of violent incidents were reported in just the past year.
Utah Highway Patrol troopers are dealing with more aggressive drivers. We'll show you more of the behavior they shared exclusively with Fox 13 News.
And we will show you the milestone crews reached today as they work. It continues on the new terminal at the Provo Regional Airport. The Utah Highway Patrol says it is seeing an unprecedented rise in aggressive driving and deadly crashes.
Many people have likely been in or seen situations like this one caught on camera. Watch. That driver can be seen aggressively cutting off cars to the right and then quickly darting back left across all the lanes before crossing the double white line into the HOV lane. Then there's another driver who continues jamming the brakes, then speeds up in the middle of the busy freeway. Troopers say incidents like these are happening every day.
Those things like tailgating, aggressive lane changes around somebody who you think is, clogging the left lane or loafing in the left lane. They, increase people's blood pressure and sometimes, people react poorly and also engage in poor behavior. And we can't have that. And that's what we're seeing out there.
As of Monday of this week, there have been 98 deadly crashes since the beginning of the year, resulting in 106 deaths statewide. Comparing that to 2020, there were 23 fewer deadly crashes, resulting in 25 fewer deaths statewide.
After months of investigating, Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill has ruled the use of deadly force by a UPD officer last August was justified. On August 8th, Unified Police officers responded to a call of a suicidal man in Holiday. 39-year-old Matthew Hilleblink was on top of a parking garage with a pistol. And despite 30 minutes of negotiations, when the suspect pointed the pistol at officers, they felt their lives were at risk, and Hilleblink was shot.
Even though we conclude this use of deadly force was justified under Utah law, we nevertheless examine all the factors that came together and caused the chain of events that resulted in Mr. Hilleblink's death at the hands of the police.
The Salt Lake Police Department was also involved in an independent investigation of the incident. There is some good news now in Utah County.
A new terminal at the Provo Airport is taking shape. To mark a construction milestone, the city hosted a beam topping ceremony today. Project managers say despite the pandemic causing supply chain issues, everything is on time with the multi-million-dollar project.
We are on budget and we are projected to be on time, even with material delays and things resulting from COVID and the difficulties that we face with material escalation and all of that sort of thing.
Provo Mayor Michelle Kafusi says they're building this airport with the intent of expanding. Up to 10 airlines could eventually operate at the Provo Airport.
Some investors did very well investing in GameStop earlier this year. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is one of them. Details straight ahead.
Coming up, learn what impact a recent surge in patients has on staff at 2 Salt Lake City hospitals.
Governor Spencer Cox says he will sign a bill to ban mask mandates in Utah schools come this fall.
The legislature passed the bill in its special session yesterday. At his monthly news conference today, the governor says Utah leads the nation right now in children getting the COVID-19 vaccine, and he doesn't think masks will be needed this fall.
If there is a change in circumstances, and that's important to know, we have the ability to alter that. I have the ability to alter that for 30 days if there's a change in circumstances, at which point then the legislature would need to become involved, which we would do anyways.
The governor also called for Utahns to get vaccinated to speed the return to normalcy.
Nearly 10,000 more Utahns are now considered fully vaccinated. That brings the total to more than 1.1 million. 19,000 more doses of the coronavirus vaccine have now been administered in Utah since yesterday.
We have late word now. The FDA says Pfizer's COVID vaccine can be stored at warmer temperatures for a longer period of time. Previously, the vaccine had to be stored at 158 degrees below zero, and it could only be stored in a refrigerator for 5 days. Now the FDA says it can be stored in normal refrigerator temperatures for up to 1 month. The change can give the vaccine a longer shelf life and make it more widely available to doctors' offices.
266 new COVID-19 cases were reported today. 4 more Utahns have died from the virus. The 7-day positivity rate is now 6.3%.
Workers at St. Mark's Hospital in Holiday took to Facebook on Tuesday to share some good news about COVID-19.
Yeah, take a look. They shared this picture. The caption says it was the first day in more than a year that the hospital did not have one single COVID patient.
Despite hospitalizations and case rates continuing to drop, both University of Utah Hospital and Intermountain Medical Center in Murray say they are busier than ever. Fox 13's Diego Romo explains why.
We are all very relieved that the worst seems to be behind us. We're also very cautious.
Dr. Vinnick says although they are seeing a declining rate of COVID patients, things are not easy at the University of Utah Hospital.
There's a higher incidence of stress and depression nationally among healthcare workers now than there was during the height of the pandemic.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that hospitals across Salt Lake City are busier than ever.
A lot of people who delayed care during COVID are now getting care. And so we are as busy or busier than we ever were. Fortunately, it's not COVID.
Dr. Vinnick says many patients with serious heart, lung, and other conditions have largely avoided hospitals for the last year due to case rates and community spread of the virus. They are now returning en masse, and the trend is the same at the Intermountain Medical Center in Murray.
We are extremely busy. People have been working for, well over a year now at, full tilt, and we're still working at full tilt because we have people who need us.
Both doctors praise the efforts by those in the community who have gotten vaccinated and done their part to stop the spread of COVID-19, but warn that things could easily turn if we do not remain diligent.
Please, if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated as soon as your children are in the age range that they can get vaccinated, down to 12 now. Get those kids vaccinated. The sooner we get people vaccinated, the safer it is for everybody.
There's definitely no high fives in the hospital. This is not a mission accomplished. This is a continued mission and continued care.
In Salt Lake City, Diego Romo, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, we all know about the devastating impacts of the drought, but now we're getting a clearer idea of when we should be watering our lawns. So take a look at this map with data from Utah's Division of Water Resources. You can see most of the state should only be watering twice a week for about 20 minutes each time. If you've got pop-up spray heads, that's the recommendation. Now, the dark blue areas are 3 times a week, but the state says do not water in windy conditions because it's just simply ineffective.
So
Yes.
that means that watering right now in southern Utah would be ineffective.
That's correct, and for the next several days, actually. So go ahead and hold off. We are seeing some areas of blowing dust because we do have dry roads and obviously the West Desert, but we're going to see areas of blowing dust here over the next couple of days. Right now, a gorgeous view from our Olds Mill camera, but across the state, we do have areas of rain, mostly near Wendover currently, and then very gusty conditions across southern Utah. Spotty light showers and quite a few clouds, Price all the way up into Wyoming, but it's the wind that'll be the main concern for the next couple of days. For tonight, Wendover, areas of that rain currently moving through, but let's talk about the wind this evening. Still at 7:30 tonight, areas of purple, those are wind gusts 45 to 55 miles per hour. We look at the forecast for tomorrow morning, a bit of a break, but then come tomorrow afternoon, same thing, but probably even worse actually here across the state. Everything in purple, again, those are wind gusts more than 45 miles per hour. That is going to blanket almost the entire state. Saturday afternoon, another day not to be watering as we're going to have the windy conditions, especially across the eastern 2/3 of the state. So wind gusts currently, St. George, 53 miles per hour, 46 miles per hour for Cedar City, 49 miles per hour for Milford. We're dealing with gusty conditions all the way up into Evanston. But this is why we have the big concerns for fire weather over the next couple of days and also just blowing dust. We're going to see potentially some downed branches, power outages possible, so make sure that phone is fully charged, especially if you live across southern Utah. And our temperatures here across the state, currently it's about 70 to 75. First thing tomorrow morning when you wake up, it'll be close to 50 degrees with mostly clear sky. Second half of the day tomorrow, it's going to be much cooler than the last few days, and we'll have a chance for some thunderstorms. However, our high resolution future model is showing that some of those thunderstorms, most of them will be staying off to the west of the Wasatch Front. But here's the setup. It's an area of low pressure that is going to settle into right over Nevada and California. We're going to see the very gusty conditions on that east side of the low, especially across southern Utah. This moves across northern Utah on Sunday, Saturday into Sunday, and we're going to see increased chances for some rain showers. And then by the end of next week, off to our west, areas of high pressure. So could potentially see the high pressure return by next weekend. So additional rain here across the state through the rest of the evening. We're going to keep the chance for thunderstorms near Wendover, northwestern Utah, and then come tomorrow morning, look at this. Thunderstorms near the Colorado border. Widespread snow possible during the overnight hours along I-80. This would be through Friday morning. So if you are planning on waking up early Friday morning, tomorrow morning, and driving into Nevada or over to California, or you have to drive through northern Nevada, keep that in mind, potentially seeing some travel impacts tomorrow. So we're going to see increased chances for showers and thunderstorms this upcoming weekend. Tomorrow morning, close to 50 degrees here across the state. Highs will only be about 55 to 65. And then for St. George, you're going to be 70 tomorrow with windy conditions. Windy again by next Wednesday, but you're back into the 90s by next Tuesday. This upcoming weekend in the 70s for St. George, and the wind will hopefully be dying down come Sunday. But for the Wasatch Front, Sundays are coolest day and also our best chance for showers and thunderstorms, and then mid-70s for Tuesday and Wednesday.
Utah's Violent Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team is renewing their efforts as the pandemic winds down.
We do our part. We expect the system to do its part.
Why the U.S. Marshal's Office is saying the party is over for the worst offenders in Utah who've evaded the law so far.
We would all be better off if people would stop watching cable news.
Governor Spencer Cox weighs in on the fiery critical race theory debate and the Utah legislature's push to ban it in Utah schools. In today's Fox 13 Money Watch, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had impressive returns on investments in GameStop earlier this year.
We are talking big money. Our content partners at the Salt Lake Tribune reports the church's investment arm, Ensign Peak Advisors, invested $867,000 in GameStop, which then grew to about $8.7 million in a matter of months. That's a gain of 907%. Now, the Tribune also reports that overall, the church's largest investment fund grew by $2.4 billion earlier this year. It continues a dramatic rebound from losses last spring brought on by the pandemic. SEC documents indicate the value of at least part of what the church calls its rainy day fund is $46.5 billion.
Are you having buyer's remorse after buying your new home? You're not alone. A new survey by Bankrate shows 64% of folks between the ages of 25 and 40 have regrets. When baby boomers between 57 and 75 first bought their homes, about a third of them said the same thing. Younger people had various problems with their purchases. For 15%, it was location. 14% said it was either too big or too small for their needs. Other problems included the cost of maintenance and mortgage payments.
Always a problem when you're a homeowner, right? Always something to work on. Microsoft now saying goodbye to its iconic web browser. The tech giant is ending support for Internet Explorer 11 now. It will end next year. Internet Explorer debuted back in 1995 and was once the most used web browser, but Microsoft says Internet Explorer is now slow, less secure, and is no longer compatible with many modern web tasks. Windows users will still have access to Microsoft Edge. That's the company's new modern browser.
Stocks rebounded today after jobless claims data showed that the labor market continued to recover, helping the major indexes snap a three-day losing streak. 444,000 Americans filed for first-time unemployment claims last week. That's the lowest level since the pandemic hit. The Dow gained 188 points to close at 34,084. The Nasdaq added 236. The S&P rose 43.
It's a hot topic. State lawmakers are debating critical race theory in Utah schools. Governor Cox weighs in on what should be taught about U.S. history.
And the Violent Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team in Utah is saying to criminals, the party's over. Why are they saying that they're going to catch more in this coming year? Coming up.
And he was known for his portrayal of Sister Dottie S. Dixon. We have sad news to report about Utah actor Charles Lynn Frost. The pandemic has hampered efforts by law enforcement teams that go after Utah's most violent and dangerous fugitives.
But now they say they're ready to begin cracking down once again. Spencer Joseph is live in Salt Lake City with the message from law enforcement tonight. Hi, Spencer.
Hi, good afternoon. And by the numbers, they've actually arrested so far this year 70 adult probation fugitives. Now, that's also 300 in the last 3 years. The pandemic, though, has slowed them down, but they are saying that's all about to change.
We are not talking about your petty, small-level criminal and low-level drug dealers. These are the most violent and dangerous criminals in our community.
The Utah Department of Corrections and U.S. Marshals Violent Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team, or VFAST, came together Thursday to announce a renewed effort to catch the worst criminals Utah has.
And an example of that is a man who was recently arrested for a bank robbery, a string of bank robberies, who had 68 prior arrests.
Also addressing the issue of what is being called the revolving doors of the justice system.
But too often, these violent criminals are brought on state charges, and are not detained and are free to commit more crimes until we were asked to arrest them over and over and over again. We do our part. We expect the system to do its part.
That's why this relationship is so important.
The Department of Corrections also addressed those concerns, saying the pandemic has slowed efforts.
It was difficult to say, yeah, there was restrictions.
Weighing public safety where there's risk going out and getting a fugitive, and it is, unfortunately, that's the nature of where we've been the last year.
But the message to these wanted fugitives from the 28 agencies that make up the VFAST team:
if you've had a party in the last year, the party's over.
Deputy Director Jim Hudspeth of the Utah Department of Corrections did say, despite the pandemic, that his work and the work of the U.S. Marshal's Office as well was exceptional during this time, despite that they're challenged during the pandemic. And they also say that they're very proud of the work that they were still able to do. Live in Salt Lake City, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A man is now behind bars in Utah County in connection with a double murder in eastern Utah. Newly unsealed court documents indicate Matthew Tapoof is facing 2 counts of second-degree murder for allegedly shooting and killing 2 people on the Uinta and Ouray Indian Reservation yesterday morning. Federal authorities say the victims are 2 members of the Ute Indian tribe. Authorities say Tapoof was being assaulted by the victims before the shooting.
Governor Cox says he's okay with the legislature passing a resolution to explore a ban on teaching critical race theory in Utah schools. Critical race theory is the idea that racism is built into the fabric of American society. Lawmakers were pushing to ban it, even though it's not currently being taught in Utah schools. The resolutions urge the state school board to look at its curriculum, and the governor says he's fine with that.
But also, just as importantly, making sure we're not avoiding the hard conversations about our history. And I just want to emphasize how important that piece is. We live in the greatest nation in the history of the world, and we have so much to be proud of, and we have to teach those things, and we should teach those things. We've also made some very serious mistakes in our past. We shouldn't shy away from those things. Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and we need to make sure that our kids, our school kids, that they learn the ugly parts of our history as well.
House Democrats walked off the floor in protest of the resolution yesterday. The governor says he's fine with them making that statement on behalf of their constituents.
And new tonight, also of note from today's news conference, the governor had a few choice comments about talking heads as he describes news anchors on cable news. Listen to this.
We would all be better off if people would stop watching cable news, whether it's CNN or Fox News or MSNBC. Pick whatever one you're addicted to. And I'm 8 years sober, and it's been one of the best things that I've ever done. And I would just encourage more and more people to turn that off and talk to real people about the issues around you, not listening to the talking heads who make their money by making you outraged.
The governor was specifically referring to culture war discussions that have become a mainstay on cable TV. Asked about his own appearances on those channels, the governor says he does them occasionally to be a, quote, voice of reason. A former Utah representative and current Fox News contributor, Jason Chaffetz, responded on Twitter asking the governor, then why do you go on those shows and brag about being on? And if you don't watch, how do you know they are bad? Where do you get your news?
Now to a Fox 13 News investigation regarding police response times in Salt Lake City.
Bob, as it turns out, the average time it takes for an officer to arrive on scene is significantly higher than the department would like, as they feel the strain of being understaffed by 77 officers.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbetz takes a closer look at the problem.
Well, the union representing officers says the problem has gotten so bad that it cannot, in good conscience, guarantee the safety of citizens. The department's current goal for the most urgent type of call, a priority one, is 4 to 5 minutes. But instead, right now, the average response time is anywhere from 8.5 to 12 minutes. Earlier this year, the average response time for these urgent calls was up all the way to 18.5 minutes. Priority one could be life or death, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do better, but I think we are getting to that point.
Priority 2 cases should not take much longer than a priority 1. These are still high priority calls requiring immediate attention. But in Salt Lake City, we are currently looking at average response times of up to 22 minutes, which is down from an average response time of up to 32 minutes in October.
It's unacceptable. You know, you can't have a priority 1 or a priority 2 call not being responded to for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes. That's unacceptable.
Remember, these are all averages, but over the past few months, Fox 13 has seen plenty of high priority cases that took way longer than average to respond.
She was screaming stuff like, help, it hurts, don't touch me there, someone help me, screaming over and over. And it was the kind of scream that was just like bone chilling.
I just saw a man attack a woman. He's an elderly couple that had been attacked.
And he struck her in the face about right here, and she dropped.
He mentioned that he was going to come back with his gun and shoot the place up.
Tonight at 9, we will show you our full investigation, including what the police department has to say about what happened in each of these cases, why they think response times have gone down in the past few months, and what is the outlook moving forward. For now, reporting in studio, Adam Herbets, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We have some sad news to report. Charles Lynn Frost, the Utah actor and LGBTQ activist known for his Sister Dottie Dixon persona, has died of colon cancer. Frost was an active member of Utah's theater community. He had roles in the 1997 film Con Air, the Hollywood detective series on HBO, and several episodes of Touched by an Angel and Everwood. Frost created the Dottie S. Dixon character with Troy Williams, the current director of Equality Utah. Sister Dottie was a regular on various radio stations in Utah. Charles Lynn Frost was 67. Troy Williams posted this tribute to Frost on his Facebook page, saying, "He was truly a force of nature, so much talent, so much fire, so much love. Charles had a major lasting impact on my life," writes Williams. "I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to work together. What a gift he gave the world."
Coming up, a Utah man had to end a record-setting run early, but how others are now helping him accomplish his mission of spreading awareness for mental health.
And it's a warm and windy day here across the state. Big fire concerns as we wrap up the weekend, head into this upcoming weekend. Coming up, how strong that wind is gusting and how long it will stay this tough for those fire conditions. We're back in 60 seconds.
Reading one picture book titled Call Me Max to third graders in February led to parents protesting this week. And a school district has stopped an entire program because of it. Here's some background. The book is about a transgender child and was read at Horizon Elementary in Murray. The book was part of a program focusing on diversity and inclusion. We spoke in depth with a gender studies professor at the University of Utah about this topic on Fox 13 News Live at noon. Dr. Ana Atunes wants to remind parents that teaching students about those who are different does not mean teachers or schools want to change student values.
But I do think that is very important as we live in a society with people who are different than us, that we are that we understand who they are and what the issues that happen in their lives, and that we are open to learning about those.
Dr. Atunes also says reading books like Call Me Max allows space for students to understand their own identities as they grow up.
A Utah man who's trying to raise awareness of mental health by setting a new running record is now getting some help. Christian Hampshire planned to run from one end of the Grand Canyon to the other 8 times. However, he only made it 3 legs of the journey before dehydration and other medical issues cut his attempt short. But now, some of the pacers who are helping Hampshire are finishing the run for him.
It's all about living each day to its fullest and pushing yourself. So really, I think hopefully that says it all and what we accomplished over the weekend.
Talk about some good friends there. A single north to south, rim to rim crossing of the canyon is 21 miles long. In total, 8 crossings would be 168 miles with 44,000 feet of elevation gain.
New research on vaping shows that there could be long-term impacts. I'm Aaron Cox, and coming up next, I'm going to show you what doctors have learned.
Today's the first round of the PGA Championship. I'll tell you how Tony Finau fared. And will Donovan Mitchell play in Game 1 for the Jazz? He spoke to the media today, even practiced with them. We'll hear about it coming up.
Welcome back, everyone. Vaping can lead to memory issues as well as other mental and physical health problems.
That's according to a study done by doctors right here in Utah. Fox 13's Aaron Cox has been following this story for the past 2 years.
There are many reasons people pick up vaping. Nabras Al-Hamdani picked it up socially, but ended up alone in the hospital.
I had to stay on steroids for about a week and a half, and I took some antibiotics, but it was mostly the steroids to help rebuild my lungs because they were so damaged.
That was an interview we did with Al-Hamdani in late 2019 during a huge outbreak of what doctors are calling EVALI,
e-cigarette or vaping associated lung injury.
The outbreak spurred Dr. Denitsa Blagev with Intermountain Healthcare to look deeper into long-term effects from those hospitalized for vaping.
It's not a minor blip in somebody's life.
Scans showed the difference between a healthy lung and one that has been impacted by vaping. The healthy lung is completely black inside the middle. A lung impacted by vaping shows white-gray specks, which indicates injury to the lungs.
Patients who have had a history of EVALI a year later still have really high rates of clinical level of disorder of anxiety and depression. Cognitive impairment a year out of that diagnosis is really concerning for the severity of that one episode of illness.
The study looked at 91 patients, all around the age of 31, who suffered EVALI a year after their initial diagnosis. About 15% had severe trouble breathing after walking 100 yards, 57% had anxiety, 34% had depression. And Dr. Blagev says vaping numbers have actually increased since 2019.
We saw a number of things over this last year that are really unusual. We were seeing people that were especially with quarantine, that were like alone and isolated and vaping all the time.
I have completely stopped vaping, all of that, and my lungs feel so much better.
Dr. Blagev says COVID-19 has prevented them from having their research patients here at the hospital to have lung x-rays to see if there is still damage there. That is the next step in their research. In Salt Lake City, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
If you need help kicking the habit of smoking or vaping, there are professionals who can help you live a tobacco-free life. Access the Utah QuitNet online or call them at 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Of course, we have all of these resources and information at fox13now.com.
Summer youth camps are back after being put on pause last year because of the pandemic. Promise South Salt Lake is excited to welcome children back this summer with an 8-week camp for those in 1st through 12th grades. But the number of children, however, will be limited, of course, this year. Teachers from the Granite School District will help students master reading and math. There will also be plenty of social and mental activities. Maybe it looks like some farm animals will join in on the fun. Program directors want to help close those learning gaps caused by the pandemic. Take a look at the list of 10 sites where you can find these free summer youth programs. That's right, I did say free. Spots are filling up quickly. That's Bob's favorite word, free there. Really, take a look at your calendar. You're going to want to register right away. For more information, we have it on our website, fox13now.com.
Free. If you're fascinated with Egypt or want to learn more about this ancient civilization, you don't have to go very far. An exhibit called Egypt, the Time of the Pharaohs is now open at the Utah Museum of Natural History. There are from a large pharaoh sculpture, many replicas, including a Rosetta Stone and a papyrus from the Book of the Dead. Museum directors say there's something for people of all ages. The exhibit runs through January. Tickets must be bought online in advance. We have a link at fox13now.com.
Well, here across the state, indoor activities will be the way to go on Sunday. And honestly, across southern Utah, it's so windy right now, it's probably a hard afternoon to be outside anyway. What we have going on is an area of low pressure that is going to settle in right over Nevada over the next couple of days. And we will continue to see impacts from this throughout the entire weekend. For the rest of tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms near the Nevada border and along the Wasatch Back. But our better chance for those thunderstorms will be west of Salt Lake and towards the Nevada border this evening. Our strongest winds have been in southwestern Utah today. That's where we have a high wind warning in place until 9 o'clock tonight. And then for the areas of Beige, that's a wind advisory that's going to bring us through. Parts of the state will see increased fire dangers through Friday and even into Saturday. So red flag warnings until Saturday night. Come tomorrow, we're going to build on that and add fire warnings for central Utah. So just keep in mind it's going to be extremely gusty here across the entire state. Our wind is gusting currently close to 50 miles per hour, and it has been this way for several hours across southwestern Utah for much of the day. And we're seeing the wind gusts all the way up into Evanston right now. Temperatures here across the state about 70 to 75. Fire weather forecast, it'll die down tonight and then ramp back up tomorrow afternoon with our daytime heating. So by 5 p.m. we have fire danger here across most of the state. And then come Saturday afternoon, more fire danger, especially down towards the Four Corners. So Salt Lake City temperatures over the next couple of days, we're in the 60s for tomorrow and Saturday. It's going to be cooler than it has been by about 15 to 20 degrees. By Sunday, 61 for a high, and then we're back into the mid-70s come next Tuesday. So futurecast through this evening, a chance for some thunderstorms near the Nevada border. Then tonight, we're going to see snow possible along I-80 west of Wendover through Elko. That'll be through early tomorrow morning. By tomorrow afternoon, more scattered thunderstorms here across the region. Come Saturday, a lot of this will stay near the Colorado border and then over into Nevada. But we're going to see our best chance for more widespread showers and thunderstorms Sunday, starting at about midnight, taking you through the day on Sunday across northern Utah. Future precipitation does even bring us up to more than half of an inch of rain for the areas highlighted in blue, and then maybe even more than an inch of rain up into the highest UNS. So overnight temperatures will be about 45 to 55 degrees, highs tomorrow around 60 to 65. So it's going to be quite a bit cooler. For St. George, windy tomorrow, high of 70, 72 for Saturday, 78 for Sunday. Windy by next Wednesday with the highs back into the 90s starting on Tuesday. For the Wasatch Front, we are close to 60 to 65 for a few days. Then we're back into the 70s by next Tuesday and back close to 80 degrees, keeping you through much of the week next week. So fire concerns this upcoming weekend, along with scattered chances for showers and thunderstorms the next few afternoons.
Well, Jazz will play their first game of the playoffs at 7:30 on Sunday night. And it looks like they'll have Donovan Mitchell back after missing the last 16 games with a sprained ankle. Mitchell practiced with the Jazz today, and he expects to be ready to play in Game 1.
Barring any setbacks, God forbid, knock on wood, but that's the goal. Just trying to go out there and just be there for my teammates and try and help to go out there and win the championship.
Mitchell suffered the injury on April 16th. And while x-rays and an MRI showed no structural damage, the injury has kept him out for a little over a month.
I haven't been out this long since my 10th grade year in high school. An injury wasn't something to play with. It wasn't as minor as it was, made out to be. I'll leave it at that. But, I definitely had some hurdles to climb, and I think we did a good job in just continuing to progress.
Mitchell said he had some soreness after practice, but no pain. Head coach Quinn Snyder said he did notice some fatigue with Mitchell, but they've not talked about how many minutes Mitchell will play in Game 1.
I feel like I'm ready to play 48, but at the end of the day, you got to be smart as well, because you can go out there and re-injure it as well. Go out there full bore and then hurt it again. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it is the playoffs, and you got to go out there and you got to compete. You got to be ready.
The overriding thing for Don is that, he's listening to his body. And, that'll determine where he is. Obviously, he wants to be effective, and, he can be, but he's also, got to be able to function out there in a way that, where he feels he can be impactful. And that's the goal.
I think that's really it for me, just understanding how I'm going to go out there, integrate myself back into the lineup, and just continue to go out there and do what I do and do what we do as a team, try to become champions.
Jazz are well represented as finalists in the NBA awards. Two-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, up for a third award, along with Ben Simmons and Draymond Green. Jazz teammates Jordan Clarkson and Joe Ingles are finalists for the 6th Man of the Year award, along with Derrick Rose. And Quinn Snyder's a finalist for Coach of the Year with Monty Williams and Tom Thibodeau. Indiana and Washington played in the final playing game in the East. Russell Westbrook drives in and scores it. Wizards were pulling away. Then it's Bradley Beal. Cuts baseline for the Jam. The Wizards won at 142-115. They advance as the 8th seed to face the 76ers. First round of the PGA Championship at South Carolina. Utah's Tony Finau. Birdie at number 2. He's tied for 62nd at 2 over par. Another Utah, Joe Summerhays, 9 over par. The co-leader, this guy, Canadian Corey Connors. He's on top at 5 under par. 6 players are 2 shots back at 3 under par. We'll be right back.
We have just enough time to show you, and that flare on the lens. What a gorgeous shot. This is the Tooele Valley from our Oquirrh Mountain camera.
My grandma would tell us that's a ghost.
Oh, was she? Or a UFO,
My grandma
maybe?
would say that's an angel.
An angel.
Hold on to your hat if you're headed out. It is windy. Be careful out there.
We'll see you tonight at 9 if you don't blow away.